I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?
Peace, everyone. Good evening. My name is Taki Grant, and welcome to another exciting edition of HAPI Talks. Tonight, we have a very special edition. We have a lot to discuss tonight. First, I'd like to thank all of you for your love and support we received from the HAPI family, which cannot be overstated. You guys are amazing. We also want to tell everyone that our commitment to the HAPI movement is stronger now than ever. Our resiliency and our strength as Black people has allowed us to rise above opposition. Secondly, the One Africa Conference that was scheduled for the end of February in Egypt will now be held in the States, in fact, in Detroit, Michigan. Yes, that's right, in Detroit. And the dates right now are the dates are Saturday, April 30th and Sunday, May 1st. And we'll get into in a second why the conference was changed. With the change in locations, we've also modified and enhanced the conference theme from One Africa, returning to the source, to One Africa Power and Unity Conference. The conference will still demonstrate that all African cultures and peoples are linked together, either through ethnicity, language, arts, or culture. Presenters will impact the historical connectivity and confluence of African people as they migrated throughout the continent of Africa. The conference will now feature diaspora and will also address the importance of the power and unity, which is at the core of our principles in the HAPI movement. The very symbol of HAPI itself gives the message and the power of unity. The Africans that lived along the Nile used the symbol to represent the most powerful element of unity. One of the things we need to understand in this movement as we move forward is that the reality is that most groups seem to understand this power of unity, but it's something that we have to work on within our community, and we require a lot of work. A little over a month ago, there was a campaign to start the conference in Egypt, initiated by a group of individuals who refer to themselves as Afrocentrism Debunked. The name itself kind of leads you to see where they are headed. At least that's the name on their Facebook page. They created a hashtag called Stop the Afrocentric Conference. Now, interestingly enough, this group is comprised of individuals from all over the world. Even some Black people are part of this. This campaign turned into lies and rhetoric that in turn only created more lies and rhetoric regarding our intentions and our conference theme, most of which can still be viewed on our hapifilm Facebook page. You can see it under the post where we announced the live stream, and also under the post where we announced the cancellation of the conference in Egypt. The HAPI mission is confirmed. The HAPI mission is confirmed by numerous scholars, and many today now recognize Africa as a source of the common ancestry. The idea of One Africa did not start with HAPI. It's a concept that was developed by Cheikh Anta Diop, who shocked and challenged historians by asserting the influence of ancient African civilizations in his groundbreaking book, The African Origins of Civilization, Myth or Reality. In December 2021, the Metropolitan Museum of Art opened an exhibition, The African Origins of Civilization, that paid homage to the Senegalese scholar and humanist. This exhibition presents masterpieces from the museum's collection from East, Central, and West Africa. It's funny that in this exhibition in New York, this exhibit here in New York City, at one of the world's most notable museums, is 100% in line with the theme of our conference. But the irony is, when it comes from us, there's hate and resistance. We have to make sure that our narrative, we have to create our own narrative. And that narrative is that what history has to become, what history will be. In this exhibition at the Met, we see African symbols of rebirth and resurrection that teach us that even after death and destruction, we as Africans show that we built into our culture and consciousness that out of death comes new life, and out of death, a new life, and this is the lesson of HAPI. We also want to address the transition of our brother Rock, who was a huge member of the HAPI family. Rock is really, he just recently made his transition to the realm of the ancestors. Tonight we have with us Professor Small, who has a special relationship with Rock, and he will touch on that and also the aspect of out of death comes new life. So with that, we want to bring on Professor Smalls, and he's going to touch on those things.
Yes, thank you, Brother Taki.
Professor Smalls, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes, I don't use the term anymore, we've lost someone, because we didn't lose Brother Rock. Brother Rock has made his transition to a higher level. That's him with the pyramid on his chest, standing to the left of Brother Taki. An extraordinary young mind. We traveled together to Africa about 4 times a year for more than 15 years. He was involved in multiple entrepreneurial development in the Black community. He was involved in the art of teaching the wisdom and the knowledge of Africa. He managed a bookstore in the 125th Street Mart when it was open and functioning. Of course, a lot of, even before HAPI, I would find myself in my basement with him and Taki late at night, having me doing voiceover for things that they were dreaming of that led to HAPI. And I didn't really know what they were talking about. I just read the script. But this young man, father of 2, just an African activist from the bottom of his heart for all of his life. I've known him at least 25 years. Has now made that transition to the other realm, which we think we know a lot about, and when it happens, we realize we know little or nothing about. But one thing that is sure, in the history and the culture and the sacred science of African peoples, there is not a single African society that view this transition as death, because death will imply an ending of something. And in the African tradition, there is only transition and transformation in process. The same as the universe, of which we are an imitation of, in which HAPI, in his own way, tried to tell the story of how we are just smaller replicas of this greater being, that the whole universe is organic, it is an organism, and we are part of that organism, while at the same time, a replication of that organism and its function. So we have, in the realm of us living here on Earth, we have lost our brother to the day-to-day physical contact. That house, that giant house that housed him, no longer is able to. And maybe, in just guessing, the universe said, your work is finished. You've got to come back to the greater being. And the house that we designed for you, we will dissipate that back to nature. And so that is all I know. We have to do, in our own cultural development, the basics. We've got to funeralize him. We got to memorialize him. We have to bury him. And so I know, Sister, I sent it to Sister Felicia, 2 pieces of information that should be shared to everyone. It's a GoFundMe in his name as a memorial to make sure we can cover the expenses of doing his going home ceremony. And a telegraph. I don't understand that system as well, but maybe she could explain it a little bit. But the idea is to know that this revolutionary comrade, this African historian, this Black entrepreneur, this father, this brother, who took care of me I keep saying I'm the father, but he acted more like the father in protecting me across Africa, across the world. And I mean that literally. I've seen people laying on their back in parking lots when they did or said the wrong thing. And Rock had to react like Rock reacts, you know. And everybody in Ghana know, hey, Big Rock is in town. You know? I mean, the word would get around the nation that this brother is in town, you know, him and Rock. But he was certainly and still is a wonderful son, brother, comrade, friend. He's part of the founding of HAPI and part of the foundation. Him and Taki came to me together. So I know them and that the two of them, as they were beginning this process under other names and evolve into the name that they were happy with, the HAPI. And I met Felicia for the first time when Brother Rock took me to Brooklyn for an interview. And so I began to see and understand this very extraordinary group of young people that had an idea. They're young in age, but not young in experience. Taki has an extraordinary experience. And as I'm talking about Rock, because Rock and Taki, I knew them simultaneously. And people don't know their background. These are guys that go back in the movement. Most of the people we see talking about, and they have a right to do that. Scholars have a right to research, study, talk, and explain things. But many scholars come from the movement. Taki come from the movement when it wasn't nice to walk on those trains and be on those streets and wear the combat boots. You remember Taki, and wear the uniform of the Asar community and moving with your leader to Georgia and building another level of the government. People don't understand you have that kind of revolutionary and physical activism in your background, besides the scholarship that you've gone up over the years. Well, I knew these brothers. I watched them grow from boys to men almost. Watched their initial work and worked with them. They could roll up in my house at 2 a.m. and ask me to do something. Anybody else, I wouldn't let them pass my door. But these two brothers, Rock and Taki, could come in and go in my basement with my wife wondering, what are they doing in my house all night? While they were working this ideas of how to inform our people, how to create a consciousness for our people around the truth of our history. See, we don't have to create a fantasy history because we have this most extraordinary history, which is the history of the world. We are the history of the human experience. And that's the history HAPI is trying to tell. And so as we prepare to honor our big brother Rock and do the memorial service for him and his family, and to show his sons how much we appreciate their father, because the time he gave to us, he couldn't give to them, you know, and to show the rest of his family that we thank you for the time and opportunity you allow for us to have with this extraordinary young man. And so I hope people appreciate him, help us do whatever we have to do financially and otherwise to do what's appropriate when you send a young king back to the realm of the gods. It must be done appropriately. And I know the sister will put up the piece on the Telegraph and on the GoFundMe so that others can have access to it. But I was talking the other day to a queen of the Congo. Queen, she's the king of the Congo, Diambi. And we were talking to, I can't call their name, but a particular movie company that's a Black families company. You know, many of the people that work in these companies are white. And they're doing the history of Nzinga. And we were brought in to kind of tell them that we want our story told from our hearts. We want the story told from our spiritual and knowledge base, from our perspective and our viewpoint. as Taki was saying about the purpose of HAPI, that this story, this time, we will tell this story. Otherwise, we don't need the story told. And so as we watch Rock now become one of our instructors from the heavens, we'll have to take even more seriously how we tell the story here on earth about the experience of the ancestors. And so Rock was one of those great storytellers, one of the great entrepreneurs, right on point with economic development, as HAPI is trying to show us the role of economics in the development of civilization. Rock was one of the leading voices in that message. And so my young brother, you know, all of us will join you assuredly at some point. And so we wish you a safe journey back home. We wish you a big party. We assure your ancestors going to be wherever the end point is, they will be awaiting you. I was lucky, more lucky than most, that you came to me after your death. And though I was kind of unnerved for a few days because and I was telling people about an anomaly, I'd never seen a departed person come in a physical space that I'm in and disappear in front of my eyes after a few seconds. And I knew at that moment, I didn't know then, I thought it was something else until I realized what you came to ask me to do. And so I joined with your family to come and find you so you can complete your journey. So we love you. And I hope the people seeing our love for you will have that same love for you, because I don't think none of us would be sitting here today if it wasn't for you and some of the ideas you had, and you and Taki were able to weave this quilt together called HAPI. And so safe journey home, my brother. You know, tell the ancestors about the crisis we're in. We're clear they're calling in some of the best of their minds, because we need some very strong instructions right through now, because there's going to be a lot of changes coming in our world. The fact that we were attacked so vehemently while we tried to take that conference into Kemet, we tried to take this tour into Kemet. You know, I take a lot of the weight because I had to advise my younger brother that we could find a way to get people their money back, but we can't find a way to get our brothers and sisters' lives back if we lose them. And we don't know where this monster is, and we weren't prepared yet to fight it. I think we are getting prepared now, and we are going to fight them, and they're going to lose. And so let's just be clear. We are at war. HAPI is a glorious, glorious weapon of war in a way, in that it gives birth or rebirth to African consciousness. And in this birthing and rebirthing of African consciousness, HAPI is at the forefront. And I think it frightens people, like the brother said, Blacks and others are frightened that the truth really does bring a light that exposes those who are pretending to be truth. So again, I came to say and inform you of the transition and transformation of one of our beautiful brothers, and also at the same time ask you to assist his family with the GoFundMe and the Telegraph to spread the word, and that we go on with HAPI. We have an extraordinary conference that's coming up in Detroit. The message is the message, and they're not going to stop the message. They're trying to stop a particular message. Even we didn't realize the message had this kind of impact in the world, but everybody in the world knows of HAPI. The message that HAPI has brought forward, that we're not slaves anymore economically. Neocolonialism is dead. We understand what it is, and we're going to take over our own destinies economically in the world. And it's penetrating people. You who have signed up for the trip and the conference, it penetrated you. And so it penetrates others. And some bodies are afraid. But it's like Dr. King and them said, we ain't going to let nobody turn us around. We got a mission. We have a goal. We're going to meet it. The brother and sister, Felicia and Taki, are going to tell you more about Detroit and the conference and the travel issues. Much of that will remain confidential between those who are involved. The conference will be definitely open to the world. So let's let rocks passing not just be the dimming of a light, but a passing of a torch that is a greater light. And we will talk about him even more at the conference in Detroit.
Yes,
So peace and blessings, Hotep, and
Hotep.
happy. We
Yes,
should put happy after every
Hotep. Yes, that is definitely the message of happy. Out of death comes new life. And, you know, we've kind of hit some bumps in the road, but we're emerging even stronger than we were before. Like you said, Professor Smalls, we were unaware of just the impact we were having globally. And as we said, humorously, the streets are watching and they pay closer attention to what we're doing than actually we do. So with that being said, people, and we always say this, please like the video. Please share the video. Very important. Please comment. We are in extraordinary times now. If this incident that just recently occurred was not evidence of that, I don't know what can be. So it also shows that we are on the right path because we are ruffling feathers here that we didn't know even existed. So we definitely want to get this message out. Before we talk about the conference, I just want to kind of talk briefly about my relationship with rock and when it started and how it evolved into the HAPI and also to the HAPI movement. I met rock being with Professor Smalls I'm gonna say maybe 10 years ago or so, maybe more than that. And I would see rock after sometime maybe around 2011, 2012, 2013 at different events throughout New York City. And whenever I saw rock, he would always tell me like, "Hey, Todd, what's up? Make another film." And I'm like, I'm at this point, I consider myself being retired from this, you know, as if we could actually do that. And he would kind of persist, see him again, say the same thing. And like, Rock, you know, we already did like Nubia, and also the Tekken came out. I was like, you know, at this point, my brother, you know, Chris Amadeus was doing his thing, Tariq was doing his thing. So I was like, you know, I was separating from this space. Plus, I said, you know, we're gonna do something, it has to be something a little more deeper than just a film. So see Rock again. And finally I ran into him in Memorial Day weekend in 2015, and we spoke again. He said it again. He said, "Why don't you do a film in economics?" And I already had the concept for HAPI somewhat, so I was thinking about doing HAPI right on the heels of the Tekken. But at that time, HAPI was just going to be centered around the relationships of the kingdoms of the Nile. So I even went to Egypt to try to film some of it back in 2012 by myself, and it didn't really come out very well. So I shelved it, and 3 years later, I was talking to Rock at the event on Memorial Day, and he said, "Why don't you do a film of economics?" And I was like, "I don't know about economics." And we started talking about it further. Now, as I started to think about it, I said the relationship to the kingdom of the Nile really centered strongly on the economic relationship. Make no mistake about it, Kemet and Kush depended on each other for trade and commerce, which a lot of that is touched on in HAPI, but it came from Rock's inspiration that the concept was born in the subtitle or the role of economics in the development of civilization is something that Professor Smalls named it. I called it HAPI because both kingdoms at their core have a common interest, and that is the river, which is the HAPI. Also, now I want to give a shout out to all those involved. Definitely want to give a shout out to Robert Gay, Seed Haru, Ak Marie, Tuti Films, Charles Baca, people who've been involved, definitely people who are now involved, obviously Felicia, Brittany, people who are definitely a part of this HAPI movement at the core. Without them, none of this could be possible. But Rock's insisted in persistence got us to where we are now in terms of him just being the catalyst for getting me up and pushing me to really want to do this. And from the beginning, we said that it would not just be a film, but be a movement. It had to be stronger than just a Tekken or Nubia. Hoppy has to be something that has reverberating effects throughout the world. And obviously, we see where we are now. So with that, we want to definitely give a strong Madasi P and a Hoppy to the brother Rock. It's important, like Professor Small said, let his transition bring in this new life. And with that, we want to talk about the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. And as we see here, the sign for unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, the two Hapis tying a bow of unity together. When there's unity, there's strength. And we have power in our unity in the things that we do. And we must move forward in that unity. So we're going to talk about the dates. Felicia, if you will, if you want to just kind of get into the particulars of the conference. We'll also talk about the conference presenters, who's going to be there, how you get your tickets, vending options, live streaming, everything. You're on mute, Fee.
Okay, peace to everyone. So nice to see you guys back in the chat. I want to give a special shout out to Miss Olivia Segoya. She was the very first person to secure her streaming ticket when we announced it. Like literally as we were talking, she was purchasing her ticket. So I want to just thank her for doing that and everyone else that has already gotten their streaming tickets. So just straight up business. All right, so the business piece is that if you are listening to this, you have one or two options. Either you are on the stream or you are sitting with us in Detroit. That's it. Everybody on here either needs to be on the stream, the live stream from Detroit, Michigan, on April 30th and May 1st. Those are the two dates of the conference, the One Africa Power and Unity Conference, 2 days. April 30th and May 1st. Either you're going to sit in the audience at the DoubleTree by Hilton in Fort Shelby, which is downtown Detroit. And shout out to my, from the D. So shout out to my family and everyone else that's up here from the D. So either you're sitting with us or you can sit in your house if you're far away or, you don't feel like traveling, whatever it is, and get the live stream. You can go to, I'm going to put that up right here. You go to hapifilm.com to get your tickets right there. If you've already purchased a streaming ticket, you are already set for the streaming event that will happen in April. It's just been rescheduled. Everyone who purchases the live stream, you will get the link 2 days before the event, and then each morning I will post it. You can do a lot of things here. You can actually come and check us out. Or if you're in Detroit and you want to actually vend, we have a vending ticket. Your table's already set up. You just come in and bring out your wares. And the cool thing about this is that this will be the actual first Hoppy marketplace, which is super cool. So you guys will be the first people to be in there. We only have room for about 25 vendors. So get your tickets now. Is that everything? Taki? Oh, we need to talk about who's there.
Absolutely. We got to talk about the illustrious line of presenters that we're going to have. Right now, we have 12 people on the bill. And definitely want to go through the list of names.
Okay.
Dr. Luana Karenga, Dr. Rosin Jeffries, Dr. Susan Tata, Brother Sarim Hotep, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Dr. Diafala Benga, Bayana Bello, Jabari Ozaze, Dr. Malefe Sante, Dr. Chika Kua, and Infudishi Jehutimez. So these 12 brilliant scholars are going to unpack the connectivity and confluence of African cultures as well as speak to the power of our unity. Because even more so now than ever, we need to really address that. And it's interesting as we watch what's going on around the world, we see that other groups of people have no problems uniting. Particularly in situations where they feel like they're being oppressed, and they're very clear on who they are and who they support and why they support them. Mm-hmm. Some people call it being on code. Black people need to understand what that means and really get behind each other and support each other in a very meaningful way. This cannot be overstated. We're going to keep saying this again. In some ways, we're kind of glad what happened because we really can push this forward and let people know we need to stand united. Just right, D. And we can't wait either. You should make sure you should be in Detroit as well, D.
Yes. Yeah, all the stateside people, you guys were like, oh, it's in Egypt, we can't come. It's Detroit. Get your tickets now. We are going to have such a wonderful time just hanging out with you guys. You know, we're so happy that a lot of these COVID restrictions are surprisingly disappearing. And so we get to see you guys. You know, it's one thing when we see you guys in the chat, but seeing you straight up, and even the conversations I've been having, you know, people are getting at us like, oh, what's up? You know, what's up with our tickets? Are you guys okay? And again, I have to just second what Taki said earlier about you guys showing up for us. Thank you for all the love shout outs, just, 24/7. Thank you. Thank you guys for being patient and understanding, because we are, at first we were like, oh, we're doing this, but now we are doing this. Ain't nothing gonna stop us. Isn't there a song? Ain't no stop. Yeah. You know what? Can't even think of the song, but that's the song. Y'all know the song. Ain't no stopping us now. McFadden. Yes, I think. Anyway, so go ahead.
Hey, Fee, you want to say? Can I finish?
No, I was just going to say, so this, just thank you guys for, for just looking out for us, and please make sure you get your streaming ticket or you are in the house in Detroit with us.
Yes. One thing that we've learned in HAPI is how to pivot. When we first released the film and came out introduced the movement, was right in the heels or right on the beginning of the pandemic. And we had to pivot from that. So we're pretty good at this. We're pretty good at picking up the pieces and rebuilding. And that's what we do best. So we're going to rebuild this and we're going to move forward. That Professor Smalls, I have a question for you in regards to out of death comes new life. When we speak of the African spiritual systems, can you just give us some more detail on the particular, you can pick any particular African culture that really speaks to the importance of the resurrection and rebirth?
Resurrection is such a Western thing. So it's really transformation rather than resurrection, because resurrection assumed that the process of death has occurred rather than the process of transformation having occurred. Even with the using of the dung beetle and its egg laying in Kemet, it didn't presuppose death. It presupposed transformation. When you look throughout African culture, the one thing that is clear in the Yoruba, they said that when one dies or go through the process we call death, the elders in the community whisper in his ear or her ear to take the message to the ancestors. So there's an assumption there that there's no death here. There's a transformation process that's taking place. That the shedding of the matter that housed the energy that we call spirit it's a necessary process to grow. When you come out of a shell, you grow. You don't. And so the person is also told that you will come back in the same Ebi or nuclear family group you originally started this process in one form or another, as a child or in an institution that already exists that can house you. What we're really talking about is protons, neutrons, molecules, atoms. I mean, African science is so deep that the enemy has called our sacred space and our sacred knowledge his science. But we've made a mistake in throwing out the baby with the bathwater and throwing out the demon that has stolen our knowledge. We threw our knowledge out with it too. What the West is calling science is African sacred science. Okay? It's the mastery of the cosmology, the ecology, and the human anatomy, and the relationship between those three. The first two gives birth to the human, the latter. And even if we watch in the process, where you have the pyramid text being read, and Amun says, I created myself out of myself. I cause existence to exist so that existing might exist. And when I realized that I was existing, Ma'at was already at my side. And then I spat out Shu, moisture and air. Then I spat out Tepnut, the gases. And they, in turn, and this is quantum physics, gave birth to Geb, the earth that we live on, and Nut, the rest of the matter bodies that we call planets and systems and so forth. And the energy interrelationship between them gave birth to Asar and a Set, and Set and Nephthys, the human family. And so from the very beginning of our writing our story in ancient Kemet, and this is one of the oldest books in the world, from the very beginning, we told a story that had no beginning and had no end. So if you have no beginning, you have no end. Death is not possible. I'm telling you as I sit here, and you're talking to someone who had 3 death experience, 3 times pronounced dead and 3 times I'm back. And I'm not Jesus Christ, I'm just Brother Small, right? So Rock came in my living room on Thursday. I got a call on Sunday morning from a very close friend, mutual friend, that says, have you heard from Rock? 7 in the morning. He goes, why would this brother call me at 7 in the morning? Something's wrong. So I began to text Rock and call, get no answer, call all the numbers. Then I started calling his family. And the next day we had a wellness check and we found him in his apartment. So when he came in my living room on Thursday night, he had already made the transition out of matter into energy. I'd never seen that before. And I've been a priest most of my life, since I was 21. And I've studied most African systems. And as quiet as I keep it, I'm a Kemetic priest. I'm a priest at the shrine of Amun-Ra. We learn a lot of things, but we learn nothing. But the one thing they do teach us is that there is no death. There's only a continuum that have a process of transformation in the growth and the expansion of this thing we call life. And that's where the term came from. We are God having a human experience. We are an expression of an aspect of the divine essence having your peculiar human experience. And at the same time, you are a duplicate of the greater, of which you're the lesser. And your body carries out that same experience. So I know that's a long answer to your question, but when we understand what people would like to call African theology, we got to be careful because we don't have a theology. We have a sacred science with a body of knowledge of the universe, with a body of knowledge of nature and all of its components, and a body of knowledge of the human being and its abilities in nature. We are made up of everything in nature. We can eat almost anything in nature that's not too toxic and poisonous without killing us and replace ourselves. So that tells us what? We are everything in nature. We absorb the light and the energy from every planet, every solar system, every Milky Way, whether it took 3 million years to get to us. So that tells us that we are the universe. We're the totality of the totality. And the Africans say that in almost every culture I've studied, that what we're calling God the divine is the totality of creation, or the everything, the all in all, the all that exists is the one thing that we call the divine. And so we are just a piece of that divine. And that's what the struggle in Kemet and other places, all this knowledge is trying to tell you. Hey, you are a replica of that perfection. Now learn how to be perfect. You know? And that process and transition that we allude to as death is nothing but a transition and a process, you know. And that's why that young brother, it stunned me. With all these years I got under my belt, when that figure came in my living room for that second or so, and I hadn't, you know, we all have not been face to face. I hadn't seen Rock in months. So I told people when I started talking about it the next day, not knowing that anything was wrong, I said the face was sculpted and he had a bald head and he was muscular and he was covered from the waist down in red. Well, had I been thinking and hadn't gotten frightened, I would have realized red is death, and especially the West African cultures. And and he wasn't a human form. It was marble. The person was a marble, a stone. And it wasn't until Nova said, yeah, stone, that's rock. Rock is a stone. Stone is rock. So he came in all those messages to ask me to come and find him. And we found him a few days later. And we're now helping him to finish his journey. That's real. I wish it wasn't rock, because I missed the hell out of him already. But he's on his journey, which I have nothing to do with. I could only share in his journey, but I couldn't determine his journey. You know, the forces of nature, the forces of the universe, the powers of the universe, how do you say, gives us authority to do things. But it is the powers of our mother. And that's the thing I was reading about Amun saying, I created myself out of myself. After making everything on earth, then Amun says, I then, how do you put it? After creating all that my heart desired, I then embedded myself in it all. And then he concluded by saying, and I came from my mother, Nun, the feminine primordial energy of the universe. This is before anybody had a physics books or quantum physics machine or anything, okay? This body of knowledge is what we are talking about with HAPI. It is this body of knowledge that evolved because of that beautiful river into an explanation of our own existence, so that we understand and understood how to live life according to Ma'at in terms of the ethics and the morals and the principles that creates harmony and balance in the universe. So you replicate that harmony and balance right here on earth via understanding and living Ma'at. And so that's the long answer, and that still isn't all of the answer, but we are forever beings. We've always been here. No one is new and nothing is new. Only the situation we are conscious of or unconscious of may appear to be new.
Wow, it's powerful. We want to definitely share the link right now for people to support this active endeavor to help Brother Rock's family in his journey. Felicia, please put that link up.
Yeah.
We also, Professor Smalls, you made a comment about something a minute ago in regards to throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I remember when I first heard that, I heard it from this Jewish friend of mine. He was president of City College, but we had a partnership that built a lot of beautiful things. And when Dr. Jeffries got there, we had a leader to take all those things we had created to the Black people's benefit. And he always would say, I was so ruthless at first in my anti-whiteness, I would throw out the good ideas to help the Black community despite the white person carrying the good ideas. And he always told me, James, you're always throwing out the baby with the bath, but I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. And then I began to comprehend and understand that the white man have nothing that is his. He has taken our body of knowledge and put his name on it, his stamp on it, and presented back to us in his sick cultural box. And in throwing that box out, we are throwing out some of the best of us ours. By not knowing our own history, we don't recognize ourselves in other places. Once you know yourself and you look in that mirror, you'll always recognize who's there. And so that's kind of what I mean. Don't let them come and tell me about physics when I just read you a dissertation about physics, quantum physics, out of the book, the Pyramid Text, which is the oldest book in the history of the world talking about divinity. And I didn't even get into details like the rising of Ptah, all right, out of the primordial waters. Ptah is the land, the earth, the Adam, that they would call it later. They just took our stuff and wrapped it in another package and put ownership on it. And when we saw it, we threw it away because we had not looked in the mirror. And history is your mirror. We had not looked in the mirror and learned to recognize ourselves when we see ourselves.
So we were the masters of science. We were the first scientists on Earth, mathematicians, philosophers, archaeologists, and so forth. We were the first, all of that.
I used to read your teacher's book when you were young in the movement with them over in Brooklyn. And he was trying to teach us this back then. But people didn't want to listen. You know, they didn't understand it. And I can understand when you have been made unconscious, consciousness scares the hell out of you. But if you begin to understand African history and especially understand where HAPI is trying to take us, HAPI has now become a vehicle, right? And HAPI is trying to take us to a true rebirthing of African consciousness.
Yes.
No pretense, no makeup. We don't have to make up nothing. We are. The history of the world in all of its finest is us. We don't have to create no heroes or sheroes. And Nzenga was king. You can't touch that.
Yes, Nzenga was king. Powerful. Family, please like and share. I see a lot of comments coming through. We definitely want to get this message out. Again, this message cannot be overstated, the importance of it. And when you think about just the economic in celebration of rock, the economic component is something that, for like Professor Small said, always was very evident in everything Rock did. He was definitely an entrepreneur and loved to have the conversation around surrounding economics. And when we think about the HAPI and the message and lessons of the HAPI and what the HAPI River represented to the ancient Kemetu and those that lived along the Nile, the economics of the HAPI was at the forefront. Each year, the river would come through in such a destructive mode and destroy the land, and out of that destruction would come new life, and out of that new life became this economic giant of ancient along the Nile, which led the way for the development of pyramids and pyramid text and this great philosophy that we have today. When we think about things like the George M. James speaks of this in his book, Stolen Legacy. It talks about the concept of this philosophy not originating in Europe, but more so Africa. The Africans there had the opportunity to gaze the stars and chart constellations and develop concepts of building because they didn't have to worry about simple things like food, clothing, and shelter, which Professor Smalls always says at the core of economics. Those things were not at their forefront of their thinking, which came from that which delivered from the HAPI, which emerged from this constant annual flood, which was also the economic engine. So all this makes sense, and this all just ties into what it is that we're doing. Like we always say, we're just on this journey. This journey of HAPI is something that we're just flowing with. And we're just so happy everyone is a part of this journey with us as we move forward through this expansion. So we definitely, the link for the GoFundMe, just want to make sure we get that up there again.
Yep, it's in there.
Okay. All right, it's in the chat. All right, could you put it on the screen as well? When we get a chance, put it on the screen for people to see. It's definitely in the chat, everyone. You know, definitely want to support his family and his endeavor. Rock was a big part of what we're doing. And as I'm saying, what we're doing, because he will be with us, even in the ancestral realm, assisting I'm sure of this, because this is definitely something that he wanted to see forward. So Professor Smalls, in African sacred science, we spoke of things. I just want to go back to something you said before, resurrection. You said that's so, I think the term you was so European, or so white,
Right.
something.
Because it presupposes death. And the Yoruba way of looking at it, Shango, in his arrogance and ignorance, was the king. He had power and authority had been granted to him by the women of society. Women are the power. They grant authority to the man. That's why when you see her set, she's got a throne on her head. The woman owns the throne. That's the power. They seat the man on the throne. That's the authority. And so when we look at this difference between transformation and transition, and one of the folklore of the Yorubas, Shango, in his ignorance, his arrogance, his ego, he's the king, and he gets two of his younger brothers to fight to the death in order to be rewarded by him and receive a high position in the court, the winner. And when it happened, when one of the brothers finally killed the other brothers in their sword battle, then he realized he had killed his own baby brother. And so he ran away into the forest and committed suicide. But then there's and I forgot the Yoruba term, obakoso, but it means the king has not died, the king has not died. The king didn't die, but arrogance died. The king didn't die, but ego died. The king didn't die, but pride died. And so when he hangs himself in the forest, Oya, the process of change, cuts him down. Right? Now, Oya is not a person, it's a metaphoric principle, right? That is a process of change in the human character. Once the human character realizes, I have committed a crime against myself out of my ignorance and unconsciousness, that's what the hanging is about. And when she cuts him down before he dies, then a realization of change becomes possible. And then she then marries him and then marries this other guy called Ogun, the god of iron, the god of war. But if you want to get iron, what you got to do, you take a big rock, you throw it in the fire and you burn out the impurities and you get steel, right? And so that's transformation. And so when we think of Ogun, we think of warring, but no, the process is a metaphor that the metaphor is showing you how things get transformed, and iron is one of the highest forms of transformation the humans had gone through. And so the courage to change after the realization of your negative behavior that led to the death of what you love marries change, which goes through a process that ends up marrying transformation, which creates the new man or the new woman. So Shango did die as the Shango you knew, but the concept Shango, the leadership, the director, the judgment, that didn't die. That simply went through a process of change and then a process of transformation to become the great and new leader, you know, that the whole Yoruba kingdom is based on trying to emulate.
Wow, it's powerful. So let's talk a little bit about this Christian concept of resurrection and where they got it from. Because
they got it from us, but they misunderstood what we had. The easiest way to show people, because people don't know all the stuff I know in the places or taught by people I'm presupposing that I know that people know much more than me. But take the picture of the Last Supper, right? Almost all of us know it, right? Almost all of us had one or still have one in our homes. In the picture of the Last Supper, who paints it? Da Vinci. It's hundreds of years after the so-called Christ figure lived. He's got 12 people sitting at a table, right? In the center of the table, he's got the Christ character, right? And this thing is called the Last Supper. The Christ character sits at the center of the table with a big glow of light they call a halo coming from his head, because his mind is the sun. And the thoughts and ideas and principles that will change the world is the halo, the light that emanates. Around him is 12 people, but they're not all together. The 12 people is clustered in 4 groups of 4, or what? 4 groups of 3s. And that represents the 4 seasons and the 12 months in the solar drama evolution around the sun. You got it? Now, so they take Rob and they call him Jesus, you know, in that form, because that emanation from the head, and he's the sun at the center of our universe. The 12 people are the 4 seasons and the 12 months that circumvent the sun every cycle that we call a solar year. So they're telling a solar drama straight out of African scientific understanding of how things work. But they put it in a metaphoric, anthropomorphic, artistic form of telling a story of someone having a Last Supper. And then this person would then die. Well, if I just take their book, somebody asked me, well, what if none of that real? Let's just take their book. Let's just take the Bible that tells the story that the man died. I show you in that Bible that the Bible tells no such story of the man dying. The man goes to the cross about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, according to their own literature and commentary. That's a Friday, right? The Friday is leading to what? The Sabbath, Shabbat. So you can't bury anybody after sundown, and you can't visit a grave after sundown. So they got about an hour and a half to get him to the cross and get him killed in a process that usually take a week for someone to die. When you're on the cross, it's your body weight that causes you to strangle to death by the weight of your body pulling down on it and suffocating. But they have to get him up there dead and off in less than 3 hours, less than an hour and a half, really. So there's 2 other guys up there, and their own book tell you they break the legs of the other 2 guys, right? To keep them from running away, because they got to get him off the cross early, right? But they don't break his leg. Nobody ever asked the question, how come you break the other 2 guys who were just thieves, and this is the dude trying to overthrow the government because they charge him with sedition, but you don't break his leg? What's with that? And then he's on this cross, he says, I thirst. This is their literature now, talking about their story. Thank you, that's cool. Now you see the groups, the 4 groups of 3s, all talking to one another, none talking to the next group, you know? So he's on the cross, he says, I thirst. And their book said he was given vinegar and gall. Now, gall in the Hebrew is poppy juice, pure poppy juice. Heroin, okay, in its powdered form. The vinegar is fermented apple juice. So he takes this and he drinks this. The people say, oh, I got you now, small. They stabbed him in the side. But when they stabbed him in the side, they said water and blood came out of him. Talk to any cardiologist, any good physician, they tell you that when your metabolism has slowed down and you barely need a heartbeat, water and blood would come from you, which means he appeared dead but wasn't dead. And this is Friday. You put him in this tomb. His partner, Joseph of Arimathea, who's a very rich dude who sat on the Sanhedrin, but he's still his partner. So he's got an undercover man on the inside. And so they put him in his tomb. The tomb was very close. And they had to get him to where he can get some help. So those sisters, who do you think they were? Who handles the herb and the medicine? My mama was a root lady. So I know the story of who we are in that regard. So it wasn't no brothers that found that he was no longer there. The sisters went and hooked him up, and he wrote and left a message to tell the brothers where to meet him. When they get there, one of the brothers said, yo, this can't be you, man, because we saw them kill you. We saw them stab you in the side. That was the boy Thomas. What did you tell Thomas? If you don't believe it's me, put your finger through the hole in my hand. I'm physical. I'm still alive. I never died. That's their story. and they tell you it never happened right in their book. Well, how many of us really read the book? We take the innuendos. How many people knew that this picture of the Last Supper had 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of people talking just to each other, representing the 4 seasons? And the one to the side of the Christ figure with the where the red sleeve is, that's a woman, that is wife, Mary Magdalene. The figure they call Mary Magdalene, that gets even deeper. Because the dude they call Barabbas, they throw it right in your face, but ignorance let us not see. Barabbas was let go and Christ was imprisoned. Bar in Hebrew means what? Son of. Rabbas mean what? The Lord. The Lord's son had been captured in the fight when they overthrew the temple a few days before. Mary said, you better get your ass down there and get my boy out. I don't care what you do. And he said, okay, I'm the priest. I know how to do this. I can pull this off. And he did. That's just using their words. I don't need no other outside words interpreting that literature. Okay?
You know, it's interesting, even the whole 3 days and 3 nights.
It wasn't 3 days and 3 nights.
Right, exactly.
Sunday, on 2 days was all they had. But they had to keep the African story in the consciousness of the people with this 3 days, 3 night thing, you know. But we need to study. We need to simply read. See, a lot of us got stolen legacy, but we haven't read stolen legacy. We got Civilization or Barbarism by Sheikh Anta Diop. We read maybe a chapter and got a few things, but we haven't read the cover to cover. Read it cover to cover 3 or 4 times. Yeah. We got the Bible, but we've never read it. We got the Quran, but we've never really read it. It's like the thing about the 4 wives in the Quran. It's such a ridiculous thing. And you know, I was an imam, right? I went to Mecca. I'm a certified Hajj from the Rabat Alim al-Islamin. And I walked away from it because it wasn't ours. And I wasn't over any old mosque. I'm Malcolm X's successor as the imam of the Muslim Mosque, Inc. Okay? And just take one simple thing. Muslims could have 4 wives. Find me that in the Quran. Find it for me. There's one occasion in a chapter called The Cow, I think. It was after the Battle of Bidar. And they had just fought their first major revolutionary battle because Muhammad was a guerrilla fighter and a revolutionary. And he was trying to overthrow some people. And so he was trying to overthrow the Greek descendants as the Romans had come in and usurped a good part of their land. So they lost a lot of brothers in that big battle. So he came back and called the brothers together and said, look, O ye Muslim men, choose from among the widows and the orphans of your brothers killed in battle, as many as your heart can possess, which means you can treat fairly, equally, and clearly, up to 4. Those were the conditions. Is that the conditions people are using today? So we've got to read, study, and you see the deception so clearly. You laugh at yourself and say, damn, how did I miss this? How did you miss Ra sitting there in red and blue with long brown hair? He's the sun, the center of the universe. How did you miss the 4 seasons and the 12 months? Because you were told to look for somebody named Judas who was about to betray the guy who God sent down here to get betrayed before Judas was born. And how you can then charge Judas for being guilty? Some shit God put him up to doing, and he had no choice there, right? You know, there's some crazy stuff, man. So, but that's enough of that. Just to let people understand why we have got to tell our story to ourselves, for ourselves, if we're to really understand ourselves. Even the Christian church is a laughing joke in terms of its Europeanization. Again, the baby and the bathwater piece. When the Catholic Church was founded, the Ethiopian church was already 500 years old. And it'd be 500 more years before Lutheran would break away from the Catholic Church and form the Protestant movement. So what's up with that?
Professor Smalls, you made mention a minute ago about the notion of three days and how we knew it's a lie because Friday night to Sunday morning don't equal 3 days and 3 nights. Because in fact, it says 3 days, 3 nights. As Jonah was in the body of the well, so would the Son of God, Son of Man, be in the belly of the earth, saying that he would be 3 days, 3 nights. Friday night to Sunday morning ain't 3 days, 3 nights, no matter how you cut that.
Right.
So you said that the 3 days, 3 nights is something they got from us and they wanted to continue with that. And that's why they did that. Could you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
No, because I can't remember all of it. So if you had prepared me for this, I would have done my notes because people like me got to study too. But
these are questions that's coming from the conversation.
Answer to that. What was occurring here? The elite in Rome and Greece. Because even though the Romans had invaded this area by this time that this transformation has taken place, the Greek descendants had never left. They got defeated. So the way the white man played with that is to call them the Hellenistic, but nobody tells you who the hell the Hellenistic are. These are the Greeks. Alexander's people who they left Greece because they didn't have a damn thing there. So when their boss got knocked off, they weren't going back. So they stayed in the area. We now call them Arabs. You know?
Mm.
These are not our people. See, the original people who was called Arab had nothing to do with your color or your ethnic group. It simply meant sand dwellers, those who lived in the desert areas. And those were black people. But the way Arab is used now is to define the ethnic groups that dominates that area. These are the Greek and the Roman children, the Persian children, the Hyksos and the Hittites children. They never friggin' left our land and went back when they lost the battle. What were they going to go back to? That's why they were in our land in the first place. And so Muhammad was fighting these people, you see? And these people were their elite was trying to give themselves a culture. And so they stole what of our culture they could understand. You see? So they didn't get the whole thing. They don't have the whole thing. Even Freemasonry comes out of this. The Knights of Malta comes out of this. The Knights of Malta used to be called the Knights Hospitallers. They were the hit group that the Pope sent to take out the Knights Templars. We could go all night with this one. But these are the elites trying to figure out, how do we take this humanity back to our barbarity and transform our societies? And so that's what the creation of the religion was, to take what of the rules and metaphor and folklore we had to go back and transform the consciousness of their people. But since we never taught them the whole package, they never understood the whole package. So they created a fraudulent package that looks like our package. And now we up in there as crazy as they are.
Mm. Yeah.
So
we would definitely. So with that, this when to get back.
People really coming after us to get to talk and me talking about all of this stuff, because it's really, people don't really understand. Read Stolen Legacy for real. Stop talking about how badly Dr. Ben's handwriting is. You better read the wisdom that came from that badly written hand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Read Chekantadia. Don't talk about the great Theophila Banga. Read Theophila Banga's African philosophy. What's that, brother? The History of African Religion, the Kenyan brother. African Religion and Philosophy. Get that book and really go into it. There's a new one out that a brother sent for me, a Nigerian brother. I don't know him. He obviously was reading a lot of my tapes because I see a lot of my stuff in the book. It's called Rebirthing African Consciousness. It is a hell of a piece.
Wait, say the name one more time.
Rebirthing African Consciousness. And he lays it out. He breaks it down. There's a reason why, and I'm going to mention his name, Brother York is in prison. See, you don't understand how this thing works. The elite that's controlling the world through dominance over the resources that create the economics, resources they're stealing out of Africa by keeping us ignorant and blind about the science of reality, because your spirituality is your reality. It's not something separate and aside. You see? And so that science is to keep people in the darkness, in ignorance. So you don't understand how to do the most basic thing in your daily life. And making sure you can eat at any cost. Making sure you and your family got shelter from all of the things that can intrude upon you. And on and on and on. And that's why HAPI scares them. HAPI came rolling out of Brooklyn by that little river and start talking about this river, and you can build a HAPI down 125th Street. You can build a HAPI in Detroit. You can build a HAPI in Miami. They said, wait a minute, if those Negroes get that message, we're in trouble. There'll no longer be the $1 trillion Negro we can milk like a cow. Okay? And the Africa won't be the multi-trillion dollar Negroes we can milk like a cow. And if the 3+ billion of them come together and they control 70% of all the wealth in the world, we're all in trouble. And we have to keep them ignorant, and HAPI is coming and saying, we are going to wake you up. Absolutely. We're going to come out of the darkness of your mind with the light of your ancestors to light up your mind. And that's going to be the shine, raw shining and sparkling on HAPI, the great river that created this massive civilization through its resources.
The pyramid analysis, as Dr. Jeffries coined it, of economic, politics, and culture, is at the cornerstone of the HAPI movement. And that analysis within itself kind of teaches us how to operate, and just getting our cultural valuations and that deep values, which then dictates how we operate our economics and our politics, is the message. And when you said it yourself, and give people a little bit of HAPI history here, we're going to play this for you guys in a second. This was originally our closer for the film, but we took it out once Professor Smalls spoke about when I heard him speak one night, and it was on Facebook, but it was a lecture he was given about using the lesson of the ancient ancestors that lived along the HAPI River, the HAPI Ituru, using that message of garnering the different resources and empowering yourselves. And we need to do that now. We need to find the HAPI in Detroit, the HAPI along 125th Street, the HAPI in Miami. I was like, wow, that's powerful. That right there is the closer. And once I saw that, I went to him and said, Professor Smalls, you said something at this lecture. I need you to say it again on 125th Street. We went out there with Rock and we filmed it with Seed and everyone. We filmed it, and that's how the closer or the ending of the film came about. But the original closer, which we took out and made a trailer, speaks to the resiliency of us, speaks to the resiliency of the ecosystem. So I just want to play that for a second because it's very important to have this message at a time like this. And after we play that, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about this conference again, and then we'll probably say good night, or if anyone has any questions. So, Feed, you can play that video, and we'll come back and talk about the Detroit.
Okay.
So we have to have our own narrative of what history has been and what history is and what history can be used for. As Dr. Clark, our great scholar, said it best, history can be our clock to tell us where we come from, what time it is, and where we need to go. History can be a compass for us to let us know what we have to do and what we haven't done, so that we have to make sure that we don't build our narrative of socialization, how we get our values, and acculturation, how we fit into society, based upon the lies of European superiority and African inferiority. But we have to understand that we have suffered through a process of dehumanization, but our resilience and our strength has allowed us to rise. And we can say, as Maya Angelou said, "And still I rise." And African symbols of rebirth and resurrection, even after death and destruction, show that the Africans built into their culture a consciousness that out of death and destruction can come new life. And this is what is the lesson of HAPI, that there is resilience in the ecological systems of the earth, there's resilience in the human family on earth, and there's resilience in the mysteries of the universe and the divine order of the universe that is not fully understood. But it all represents a chance to bring out of death and destruction new life, and to do as the Africans understood they were doing, build for eternity.
So it was about 2 years ago now, I decided to take that out and replace it with the information regarding the hobby of now and how to develop that. And that's such an important message. But the message of resiliency is something we need to hear. We need to understand who we are and the importance of that. We were planning to do this conference in Kemet. We had to switch, we had to pivot as we've done before. And now we have this new, more enhanced conference in Detroit. And we want everyone to come out. If you can't be there physically, you could be with us virtually. Going to be a powerful experience. We had to switch out some of the presenters due to scheduling conflicts. We added 3 additional people, Dr. Milana Karenga, Dr. Malefe Asante, and Dr. Susan Tata, who are all 3 extraordinary people. And we look forward to having you there in Detroit with us, either in person or virtually. There's opportunities to be vendors as well. There's very limited spacing. Sister Felicia spoke about that a minute ago. It's about maybe 20 to 25 slots. You don't even need a table. Your table will be provided for you, and there's also free Wi-Fi for those vendors who will be accompanying us. It's going to be full day Saturday and on Sunday. You can get your tickets at hapifilm.com. We want to bring up the list of the presenters again, see this powerful lineup that we'll have. But this resiliency and just fighting through this opposition is something that we're built for. And this is who we are as Black people. Professor Smalls, you want to add anything to that, my brother?
No, sir, just that this is a continuation of the great scholars, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Dr. Hilliard, Dr. Carruthers, Dr. Welsing, Dr. Newton, Dr. Shashi McIntyre, and we're just taking it to the next level. Taking it to the next level.
Yes, taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing. You know, all of us on this, and I just want to also say peace out to King Simon and Asar Imhotep, who are in the chat. Asar Imhotep is also going to be at the conference as well. I wanted to just say that we are also connected to different bodies of or groups of other Black folks. And we, you know, at HAPI, it's not about us, you know, making all the money out there. We are so 100% open to affiliates. All you need to do is send me an email right here at info-hapifilm. I will get you set up with your own link. You will get a percentage of the ticket sales right after we're done, after the conference, because it's literally about, we said it before, we wanted to, reach at least 1 million Black folks. And we know there's way more than 1 million Black folks in the world. And so we can all do this if we collectively actually work together. And so, if you're down on the mailing list someplace and you want to put up a link, just let me know, send me an email, and we'll make that happen.
Yes. HAPI's about affiliations. It's about
Yeah.
unity, power, and again, power and unity. So we're thinking of the Power to Unity conference. We could definitely reach that goal of 1 million Black people with the power of unity, and also sharing the economic aspects of this as well.
Yeah.
So people definitely be a part of it. We want to let everyone know that who also purchase ad space in the commemorative book, that your ads, the book will be coming out. We will be issuing it with the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. So your ads are safe. There's still opportunities also for people who are interested in putting in ads who did not the first go around with the One Africa Return to the Source Conference. So yes, if you are interested in that, you can send an email to info@hapifilm@gmail.com and express your interest to submitting an ad, and we can send you the application with all the ad details in regards to how you take out, how you send your ad in, and with different sizes you may different sizes to choose from. With that, Felicia, you got any closing words?
Yeah. Yes. And also, listen, okay, this is just a funny little quick Hoppy story. So we had our brother Dennis in Detroit pick up some flyers for us. And, our signals got mixed and he put it up on Facebook. So let me tell you, I want to just give a shout out, because that flyer went around so fast. And I'm calling, I'm instant emailing everybody on Facebook, like, you got to take it down. We're not ready to say it yet. The link's not ready. So I want to just give a peace out to Quasi, who's always in our corner, Gershwin, always in our corner, and Bashir, always in our corner, and Charles and Dennis. Thank you guys so much for the Hoppy love. You can post it now. I'm just saying. But yes, get your we were just like, I was like, no, not yet. And Asar posted it too. So thank you guys for liking it last night, even though it stayed up for like about 45 minutes. But thank you guys so much, and please feel free to post it now. Let's reach our 1 million people, because we can do this.
Yes, and we see the importance of doing that. The situation that occurred last month was a reality check. And if we were living in some fantasy world, we were definitely smacked and kind of woke up and like, this is a different, world we're living in and our impact that we're having. So, we had to recreate this thing we're doing and kind of figure out a way to move forward more effectively, more efficiently. So we did that, and we have this conference now in Detroit. Want to make sure everyone comes out to this conference, because again, the world is watching and listening to what we're saying. So definitely want to echo what Felicia said in regards to the support and the love. It's real, and we apologize for being away from everyone for so long. It's been a long time, but there was a lot going on behind the scenes, just good and bad. So it kind of took us away from engaging with you guys, but we're going to have some new changes, some new Hoppy announcements coming up soon, but definitely want to say we don't want to be away from you guys this long again. Professor Smalls, you got any closing words?
No, sir. I think we've said what had to be said for this footprint. This is the first step towards getting to Detroit and then going back home.
Yes. All right, people. So listen, it's been an honor to be here with you guys tonight. We love everyone and definitely appreciate the support. And we look forward to seeing you guys soon, and also in Detroit or on the live screen. With that, have a good night. Take care. Peace.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. You know what? You get to say it. I'm always saying your words, Professor. So you get to actually say it. I'm always saying the words of Professor James Small, peace and blessings. So you're
peace and blessings. That's the way of our world. We are the human being.
Yes.
We created human beingness. And if we remember that, we don't have to worry about them ever walking away the winner. This has just been a battle. No one has won yet, but we have really won when we realize who we are. We've won this battle.
Yeah.
So peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.
I I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?